Hi, and welcome to another session on database and SQL basics. In this session, we are going to talk about full outer join, how to use it, and what are its purpose. So let's jump right into the topic. In our earlier session, we have seen that the left outer join represents data from the complete left table and whatever data maps in between the table 1 and table 2. And a right outer join represents the data from the complete right table and whatever is the overlap between table 1 and table 2. Now a full outer join represents data from table 1 and table 2 irrespective whether there is a map or not. And whenever there is a map, that green area will consist of column information from both the tables, and in cases where the particular row does not have a mapping from table 1 to table 2, the table 2 entry will be null, and in case where the table 2 has a row and does not have a mapping in table 1, that particular row's table 1 related output will be null. So let's look at a sample case so that we have a full clarity as to how to use a full outer join to solve a particular business problem. Now the given sample business question is to list all the customer ID from the AdventureWorks databases, customer subset table, and the sales order ID from the sales order header subset table. Here they have given an additional condition saying that in cases where a particular customer ID from customer subset table doesn't have relevant sales order ID in the sales order header subset table, then the field value of sales order ID will be null. And in case where the sales order ID related customer ID in the customer subset table is not present, then the customer order ID will be represented as null. So you can see we need data from both the tables, and whenever a particular data is not present in the other table mapping to the key value that is paired here, then that particular value should be represented as null. So let's go ahead and see how a full outer join is written, and then in our SQL Server Management Studio we will write a query to achieve this particular result set. A full outer join is written as you take the table A and table B which are to be joined and put in a keyword between them as full outer join, and onto that the mapping should happen on the specified mapping column. So this is pretty much the syntax of a full outer join. So without much delay, let's go ahead and solve our business question problem that was mentioned earlier. In the given question, we were asked to actually perform the join on the customer subset table and also the sales order header subset. So looking at the join criteria keys in both the tables, the customer subset table has a customer ID and the relevant customer ID field is present in the sales order header subset table as customer ID. So the join criteria here will be on the customer ID. So in our query we were asked to represent the customer ID from customer subset and the sales order ID from the sales order subset table. So let's go ahead and start writing our query. So we have our select. Here we need a select statement, and we need a from statement, and we need our full outer join statement. So here we are joining the sales dot customer subset table with the sales dot sales order header subset. So let's call this table as C and this table as S, and when we join on the field C dot customer ID is equal to S dot customer ID. Okay, so these are the two fields, and the fields that we require in the output are C dot customer ID, and the second field that we require is S dot sales order ID. So these are two tables that we require from our AdventureWorks database. So if we take these two tables, you can see the sales order customer subset has a few customer IDs that may not be present in the sales order subset table, and this similarly the sales order header subset table can have few fields where the record data set is not present in the customer subset table. So let's just go ahead and execute this query. So here you can see for these sales order IDs, the customer order ID is blank. Now wherever the sales order ID has the corresponding customer ID, that data is represented. Now let us look at an example where the sales order header ID is null. Now if you see these customer IDs in the result set, they do not have the corresponding entry in the sales order header subset table. So since they do not have the corresponding entry, so the sales order ID is represented as null. So this is a very good example. So if a sales order ID has no corresponding customer ID available, you can see in this row number 1000 that the sales order ID does not have the corresponding customer ID available. If at all, if the customer ID which is present in the sales order header subset table is present in the customer table, then the corresponding mapping is represented. And in cases where the customer ID doesn't have the corresponding entry in the sales order ID table, then for that particular customer ID, the sales order ID entry will be null. So this is nothing but your full outer join. So this concludes our session related to full outer join. If you like this video, please hit the like button and please subscribe to my YouTube channel All About Data to receive more updates and details about SQL and database design in the future. Thank you so much for watching this video. Till next time, have a safe day and have a safe week.